Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
On YouTube on this Wednesday evening, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. It is about the midpoint of October right now, and we are keeping it consistent with horror movie reviews. Starting today, got a back-to-back week of horror movie reviews. Starting today, for better or for worse, with The Exorcist Believer. That review we will tackle in the first half of the show today. And then following that, Mr. Celebrity over here, gone last week, finds himself on a bigger and better than ever podcast over here. Surprised the shit out of all of us last week when he hit up the group chat and said that he found his way on what podcast, Joe?
I was featured on one of the Austin Chronicles best podcasts for entertainment of 2022, Double Toasted.
We are going to get into all that later on. I'm basically gifting you the back half of the show to talk about how this transpired, maybe show some screenshots if you can or you want to, play a brief little clip. I'm basically giving you the floor in the final half of the show to talk about how that transpired because, oh my God, it was like I watched that thing like 3 times. That was like a fever dream in a way as somebody who's been watching Double Toasted now for a couple of years, not as long as you, but a couple of years.
Yeah.
That was surreal to see your ass on that thing. I can only imagine how much it was to be in the same room.
It was really cool because I've been following them before they were called Double Toasted. They were called Spill.
Yeah, I remember the Spill.com days vividly.
And then Hollywood.com was like this website that they were under, and eventually they sold them off, and Spill got sold, the whole thing. And the hosts of the podcast, one of the main hosts, I should say, Corey Coleman and Martin Thomas, decided to continue doing their thing, and they teamed up and they made Double Toasted. Other people from that podcast, Carlisle, he went off. He's writing movies. He wrote Sinister. Most recently, he wrote The Black Phone. The other two co-hosts, 3000. I forgot his actual real name. He's off doing his own thing, and then Cyrus. Whose real name I actually don't know either. I forgot what it was, but he has his own just website and he does reviews from time to time, but he's actually just like kind of taking it easy, taking a backseat from the reviews. Sometimes these guys pop up on Double Toasted from time to time, but Corey and Martin have been the ones that like day in, day out, they're still doing it, 4 days a week and everything with reviews and whatnot.
Yeah, it was really cool to see C. Robert Cargill is the guy you're thinking of who played Cyrus, who went on to write Sinister and The Black Phone and stuff. I was just like, I wanted to make sure I got his name right, but I was looking. I like what he said back in the day. He said, I considered every film another day of classes and writing a review a homework assignment, and it was graded by everyone who wrote nasty comments on the internet.
There you go.
That's fucking great.
Yeah, I love Spill.com back in the day. It was cool. It's different. I still don't think I've really seen anything like it. I used to watch that pretty consistently, and then it wasn't until maybe about a couple of years after Corey formed Double Toasted that I caught up with them. And I don't watch them a ton, but I've watched them somewhat regularly over the last couple of years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed their reviews. I still think one of the all-time funniest film reviews I ever watched was their bad movie review of Kangaroo Jack. Still one of the all-time funniest movie reviews I've ever watched.
Those bad movie reviews are getting better and better each week. I love tuning in for those.
They're good. They're good. So we're giving you the back half of the show in the meantime to talk about you appearing on Double Toasted. That'll be a fun time. In the meantime, though, we bop over, I guess, to you, Dom. How are you holding up, my friend? How's the fall treating you?
Oh, doing okay. Getting used to the cold again. I am starting to jog. I bought some Adidas shorts and some running shoes, so I'm going to try that 2 days in. Not in a row, but it's been nice. Bolingbrook has a nice neighborhood near along the library that they have there. So it's a nice little jog. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I fixed the washing machine, took it apart, got the right part, replaced that part, put it back together, and it was a daunting task. but followed some YouTube tutorials. So that feels very, very accomplishing. Now, granted, the dryer is now on the fritz, but what can you do? It's it is what it is. But I'm hopeful that it's just a matter of cleaning the ducts, which I haven't done in about a couple years now. The first time we did it, there was so much lint in there. I'm surprised the whole place didn't burn to the ground, because it hadn't been cleaned probably in literal decades.
I was just gonna say, you got to clean the lint out of the dryer.
Yeah,
it's the bare minimum you have to do with a dryer.
Yeah, but hopefully it's just a matter of doing that. So we shall see. This is all. These are the downsides of being a homeowner. Which, let me tell you, all you non-homeowners out there, being a homeowner, it's actually really good. And if you don't own a home because of jacked up prices, it's a social injustice, and it's terrible. So fuck the system.
Joe, how are you doing, my friend?
I am on my last week of school for the class that I'm in right now. Almost done. One class closer to completing this damn degree. Yeah, I'm happy about it. It's been a hell of a week, though. I stayed up till 2:30 in the morning last night doing homework. It was a final group project that we're piecing together, where part 1 is due today at noon. I mean, I got it in and everything before then, I should say. And then part 2 will be due later Friday at noon. But you have to wait for other people to comment on your work, and then you comment back, and then you do other stuff with it, and then you have to bring it to the city council, who is a group of students that were randomly selected. It's a whole thing. But I'm glad to be almost done with this class. They told me this is the hardest class of this program. Holy shit, was it actually the hardest class I've ever taken in general, actually. Like, this goes beyond anything I've done in college for my 4-year, beyond anything in high school. This is by far the hardest class I've taken in my entire life. That was brutal, but I'm happy to be almost crossing the finish line come Sunday.
Good for you, my friend. Yeah, you always remember the classes that kicked your ass, You're going to remember this one for a while.
And for good reason. It's about budgeting. It's a lot of stuff with that. A lot of stuff I was doing in this class is going to relate to what I do in city government work or village government work. So for good reason, it will stay with me.
Happy you're almost on light at the end of the tunnel on that one, my friend.
That too.
Without further ado, though, I think we can march right on forward to The Exorcist Believer. This movie has been promoted now for about a year, give or take. I think I remember seeing like the posters for it shortly after Halloween Ends came out. Now, we reviewed both Halloween Ends, and we reviewed Halloween Kills on the show, right, when it came out?
We did.
I'm almost positive we did.
Did we?
Did we not? I thought we did.
I'm going to go fact check this. Keep talking.
I thought we did review Halloween Kills back when it came out in 2021, because we weren't doing Sleepless back in 2018 when the first Halloween came out.
Yeah.
But I know we were doing Kills and Ends. Obviously, I know we did Ends last year. But about a year later, we're talking The Exorcist Believer, which I know we even kind of half-heartedly mentioned during our Halloween Ends review, because we all kind of gave some very positive remarks to Halloween Ends, which is a very controversial, very polarizing installment of the Halloween franchise that David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, and Scott Teems created that lasted from 18 to 22. Now we got a new trilogy on our hands in the form of The Exorcist. It was very popular when Universal announced that they had acquired the distribution rights for the Exorcist trilogy for $400 million with the intention of launching a brand new trilogy. And the box office discussion on this is a whole other can of worms over here that we're not really going to touch. But let's just say it's looking like that $400 million investment might not have been super intelligent at the moment. Let's just say that. What's up, Joe?
We did review Halloween Kills. My mistake.
That's what I thought. I did think we reviewed that because I distinctly remember talking about Halloween Kills with you guys, and like me pounding the table over here saying this was Anthony Michael Hall's Oscar moment. But yeah, Exorcist Believers in theaters right now. It is supposed to be the first installment in a trilogy. The next one's called The Exorcist Deceiver. And what's funny about that is the sequel, again, being called Exorcist Deceiver. I think this one should have been called Deceiver, because, man, did I think we were actually going to get a good fucking movie with this thing. I actually was pretty optimistic that we were going to get like a pretty decent, halfway decent Exorcist sequel. And no, we didn't. Now, let me explain too. I've only seen the original Exorcist. I've seen The Exorcist 3. The original Exorcist 3, William Peter Blatty's Exorcist 3 that came out in 1990. And now I've seen Exorcist Believer. I never saw Exorcist 2 Heretic. I never did see Dominion. I never saw Exorcist the Beginning. I think there's 7 Exorcist movies in total. I've only seen the first one, the third one, and this one. So the grand scope of the mythology is kind of lost on me, although I will say The Exorcist 3 is damn well one of the best horror sequels of the 90s. Me and Catherine watched that one last week, I think. Really liked that one. That was a surprisingly immersive movie with George C. Scott. Anyway, this one, though, if I would have asked you, what would you, I'm going to ask you, Joe, because I know, have you seen Saw 10 yet?
No, I haven't. I'm really sad about it.
Well, never mind. This question ain't going to make any sense. And I know Dom ain't going within 10 feet of the theater showing Saw 10. But
tomorrow I'm going to go see it.
Oh, I can't wait for your thoughts. But my question was going to be, though, like, if I asked you at the beginning of the year which Legacy sequel would have, like, sent its franchise in a bold new direction and which one would have sent it backwards, if it was either going to be Saw or The Exorcist, which one would you have taken? I'd probably taken Saw.
I would have taken Saw 2 just based on the last 2 Legacy sequels they tried doing with Jigsaw and Spiral, where I felt like this isn't really going anywhere new. Like, you're trying to do something different, but it's still the same old shit, and it's not good.
Versus David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, and Scott Teems, the men behind the Halloween trilogy that we just got, which I liked. I uniformly thought was good. My hot take is that I think the 3 movies put together, it's a little bit better than the original Halloween trilogy. Now, none of the 3 are better than the original Halloween movie.
Yeah.
But Halloween Kills clears Halloween 2, in my opinion. And even as a Season of the Witch apologist, Halloween Ends is better than Season of the Witch.
I enjoyed Halloween Ends. I did, which I think is. I know there's I know I'm forgetting 1 or 2 films, but I feel like this is one of the best. That film, Halloween Kills, is one of the best ones to have a legacy, like a legacy sequel, a legacy character. In all genres, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that's probably up there. If we're talking like the subgenre of like legacy sequels, specifically like the other Halloween movies, the Scream movies, Bill and Ted, all the stuff that includes all the old people. Yeah. I don't know why my mind always goes to Bill and Ted, but
No, I mean, look, that movie, and I said it in our review, that movie compared to Scream 5 at the time, 6 wasn't out just yet. I was like, that actually did something compared to Scream 5 with its legacy characters, and it did something new with just the franchise. It didn't tread old ground and be like, haha, look, we're doing the first film again. It didn't do that.
Yeah. So this movie, Exorcist, Steve, continue.
Yeah, like there's also a great Letterboxd review I have to mention too. That's like, studio executive, what if 2 girls get possessed in this one? And a studio executive, holy fucking shit.
That's so true.
I don't know if David Gordon Green, you know what this feels like? And I know I'm jumping around over here. You know what this feels like? It feels like David Gordon Green, Scott Teems, and Danny McBride like thought about for years what they wanted to do. Like, if they're like, hey, if we ever got to make a Halloween movie, or like, wouldn't it be cool if Michael Myers did this?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like they got to take time and hash out a movie that was a really complete trilogy, as evident by the fact that all 3 movies are distinctly different. All 3 of them kind of wrap around into what amounts to like a Haddonfield anthology in a sort of way.
Yeah.
And it's the old cliche. I don't know if the quote's attributed a lot to Bob Dylan, but I think it's been passed around quite a bit. But it's like, you get your whole life to write your first album and you get 6 months to write your second. And that's why there's the sophomore slump. And I feel like Universal shot first and asked questions later. I feel like they got the rights to The Exorcist, and then when they did, it was right after Halloween did really well, the first one, and they were like, David Gordon Green was off shooting Halloween Kills and Ends, and they were like, we want you and McBride and teams to do the exact same thing for The Exorcist.
And then the pandemic happened.
Once you're done with this, go do it. And it feels every bit like that. It feels every bit like this was kind of a shoot first and ask questions later for Universal here, as evident by the fact that even the fucking trailer felt like a mixed bag. Even the trailer didn't feel like completely right.
I remember seeing Oppenheimer and just watching that trailer come on screen, and the minute it ended, my friend turned to me and went, "Oh shit, we have to go see that." I'm like, yeah, I think we should go see that. I was like so ecstatic when the trailer started, and I figured out what it was because it played the Exorcist theme, and I'm like, oh my god, finally we're gonna get a look at the trailer. And then just finishing the trailer going, I don't really know what this movie is about, and I don't know what it's trying to do.
the basic gist.
I think what helps. So just one quick thing that helps is because I do hold The Exorcist, despite not having seen it, just because of cultural osmosis over the decades. I do hold The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, in like a high regard. It's like, oh shit, that's the horror movie.
Yeah.
Probably, really the horror movie. However, after seeing this movie, I did look it up, and it's like, okay, so there's like 5 other Exorcist movies between this one and the first one.
Yeah.
The reference is kind of broken. We're okay.
Everybody being like,
I don't feel so bad now.
I have the same feeling as Dom. Now, I'll wait till I actually start talking about my review. But Dom, I totally feel you on that, because one of my friends was like, how could they do this to the original? I'm like, bro, watch Exorcist 2 Heretic, and then come talk to me.
I didn't even know. I thought it'd remain untouched. But yeah.
I totally forgot until I was looking at Letterboxd after me and Catherine saw it this weekend. I'm like, oh shit, there is that Exorcist the Beginning movie from 2004.
Yeah.
That I totally forgot about. Like
one
I said,
of them is apparently titled prequel to The Exorcist.
Dominion, a prequel to The Exorcist.
Prequel to The Exorcist. Like,
which, fun fact, that one's written and directed by Paul Schrader, the guy who wrote Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Wow.
That would be the one I'd like to watch.
That actually does sound interesting. Now that you say that, okay.
Yeah, Schrader wrote that one. But the basic gist of this thing is that, like, there's a single father played by Leslie Odom Jr. Who's taking care of his 13-year-old daughter, Angela, and her friend Catherine go missing they go for a walk in the woods, and then they go missing for like 3 solid days. Then they turn up like some 30 miles away. They've got scratches on their feet, and they have no like realization of how long it's been, like, time wise. And then, like, almost immediately then they start exhibiting signs of like demonic possession. You got Ann Dowd, who I think is probably the best actress in the whole thing. You got Ann Dowd, who plays like the God-fearing neighbor who tries to like help Leslie Odom's character with like planning an exorcism. Then you've got Ellen Burstyn over here, who plays Chris McNeil from the original Exorcist, the mother in the original Exorcist movie, coming back here. She's become like a studier, like a purveyor of exorcistic practices, and across the world. And essentially then it all kind of converges with Angela and Catherine. They need to have the demons exorcised out of their body. Fun fact, this is the first Exorcist movie. I would believe the first Exorcist movie not to have an actual exorcist. If you think about that, there's no actual exorcist in this thing that plays a really significant role. I'm going to stop talking here. I've talked quite a bit. I'm going to pass it over to you, Joe, and then Dom, because I do have quite a few thoughts on this thing, but I'll pass it over to you, Joe, first.
You know what's good when I do this. David, what happened? Dude, this was after we saw Ends, and like, granted, I gave Ends like a 3 out of 4 stars. I gave Halloween Kills 2.5 out of 4 stars when we reviewed it. And I wasn't on Sleepless at the time, but if we reviewed it at the time, I would have probably given the 2018 reboot maybe 3, possibly a 3.5 out of 4 stars. When I heard David Gordon Green was going to make this one, and start a whole new trilogy. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, and he has the same team. He's got Danny McBride, everybody coming with him as well. Oh my god, dude. This is my most anticipated movie of 2023. I don't think it'll be the best movie I'll see in 2023, but I just want to see creatively what they will do with the Exorcist property. And I'm sorry to say, they didn't do much. And in fact, as they seem like they're trying to do a ton on screen, and they're juggling a lot of things. But it feels like by the end of the movie, they did very little with everything that happened in this movie. Now, I want to say this. I think performance-wise, everybody in this movie did their job great. I think Leslie Odom Jr. is great. I think his daughter's great. I think Ellen Burstyn, for the short time that she is in this movie, she did pretty good too. Every problem I have with this movie, because I think filmmaking wise, it's fine. There's a great opening sequence in Haiti. It's shot very well. It's intense. I was actually kind of tensed up watching the whole thing. I think production value wise, it looks good. Every problem I have with this movie just stems from the script and the story. And it mainly just came down to, I was bored out of my mind watching this movie. And that's never a good sign with any movie. It could be a horror movie, anything. If I'm bored, that usually brings it down a ton. The second act of this movie is just filled with typical jump scare shit that you would see in every other horror film from Blumhouse. Like the bad ones that they would make from time to time, like early on in Blumhouse's career. It's like, today, I would say Blumhouse is past that kind of stuff with some of the things we've seen, where they at least get a little bit more creative, or they actually have stuff to say with their movies and whatnot. And this was just like, man, we're really doing this stuff still. We're still doing I open a cabinet door and a cat comes at me, instead of whatever the hell it could have actually been. We're playing with the lights trick. It's like, okay, I see this coming from a mile away. And these scenes go on forever. I mean, these are 2-3 minute scenes of someone walking so slowly, it's quiet, or the lights flicker on, it flickers off, it flickers on, it flickers off, and it's like, okay, come on, just get to it. Nothing that you would see, really, in that original Exorcist film is on display here. There's no... It feels like they're playing with the idea of, the opposite direction, where you have a man who is faithful in The Exorcist, who then begins to question his faith as the movie goes along. And we start the movie on the opposite end with a main character who is completely devoid of faith and is slowly coming back to it in order to save his daughter. And it's like, that could have been a great story. It just sucks it's never developed, because this movie's juggling 13 million characters for some reason too. They're trying to make the goddamn Exorcist Avengers over here. With how I mean, I'm serious. When they all come together, I was expecting to hear bum 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 bum. I was like, all right, here we go. I was so
I was ready. I was ready for them to pull in a Muslim, imam. I was ready for a Buddhist priest. I was like, can we just bring the whole religious cinematic universe, which is
each
also
religion's
known as
an
humanity,
infinity stone.
That's a great one. Yeah, man, I was just sitting here and I'm just like, can we get to the exorcism already? Can we get to the dilemma at hand? Why are we taking so long to just do the basic creepy stuff that we could probably get happen as they're doing the exorcism?
How long does it take though in the original? Because I haven't seen it. How long does it take to get to the famous exorcism scenes?
So
the actual exorcism.
There's the first 20 minutes of that movie that everybody says it has nothing to do with the rest of the film, but the longer you think about it, it really does. And it takes place in Africa, I think, or India.
Okay.
And then
so 20 minutes or so,
and then it cuts to Chris McNeil, and her daughter Reagan McNeil is having these weird things. And then slowly, by the halfway point, you get the infamous shot of the priest standing outside, the windows glaring in, and he's about to walk in and whatnot. You get that shot about halfway through the movie. So at the halfway point, it establishes it creeps you the hell out as you get there too. It develops Chris McNeil, it develops Reagan, it develops everybody at least building up to that point. So like you really feel like, oh my god, I feel so sorry for this family. And as the movie plays out, you know, other things come up and whatnot. I don't want to ruin it for you because it's such an amazing film. Here it's like they could have done stuff with that. I know we're batting up against time, and Dom, I want to pass it off to you, but I got some shit to say about this movie. With Leslie Odom Jr.'s character, Victor Fletting, they could have done so much with that character. That was the character I was describing. He's on the opposite end, completely devoid of faith. Could have came back around. You have these two parents. Tony, I think, is one of their names. They're basically what's the little white girl's name? Catherine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're Catherine's parents, and they're very religious, but they're just got a slight tinge of racism to them, and like also like, you know, very closed off from everybody else. Like if you know, like just aggravated, just kind of like, you know, they kind of very much seem like the people that, oh yeah, I'm religious, but they don't really follow the Bible. They just do it because, you know, it's like part of their belief of like political beliefs and everything. And it's like, again, what are you gonna do with that? Nothing is done with that. These characters are just a-holes the whole movie for no reason.
But Catherine's mom, I will add, Catherine's mom is played by Jennifer Nettles, who is one half of the country band Sugarland.
There you go. The more you know.
She did a song with,
I was wondering that.
She did a very good song with Bon Jovi a few years, or about 10, 15 years ago, called Who Says You Can't Go Home.
Yeah.
And it still lives on my phone.
And she was
considering
great
that character, that's probably good casting.
She was good.
I don't know what else she's done in terms of acting that I recognize.
I didn't know she even acted until I saw her name come up in the opening credits.
If this is her first movie, which I have no idea, but if this is her first movie, not bad, actually. Pretty solid.
She was top.
I don't want to take away. Yeah, I know she's got like
okay, hold on.
billing on this thing.
Broadway cast of Chicago. Okay, so she's been in Broadway, so she knows how to act. Okay,
I guess she was in the
Harriet Tubman. She was in the Harriet Tubman movie.
So maybe she just likes playing racist.
Jesus, what
she's so good. She played Harriet Tubman. Holy shit!
No, listen to this filmography: Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors, Dolly Parton's Christmas of Many Colors, Harriet, The Exorcist Believer. What a goddamn filmography, man!
Hey, that's awesome. Actually, that's pretty good.
Anyway, I didn't mean to derail.
No.
I did.
And finally, the last character they bring in this movie, Chris McNeil, played by Ellen Burstyn. Why was she here? Why did you bring her into this movie? There was no point to it. I mean, like, look, man, I've watched legacy sequels like Scream, and they bring in Gale Weathers, and they bring in everybody else in these movies. But at least they did something. At least it felt cool when they were on screen. Laurie Strode, they did a ton with her in that trilogy. Despite what people might say, go back and listen to our review. We defend it. They did a lot with Laurie. They don't do anything with Chris in this movie.
They dragged this poor 91-year-old woman out of retirement from her English muffin, coffee, and Murder, She Wrote to do not a goddamn thing in this movie.
And they made her character look stupid. Like she didn't learn anything from the first movie. She like falls for the oldest trick in the book. She falls for a trick that first got her in the original Exorcism movie. Like, oh yeah, the demon's definitely not in this person anymore. I totally did it. Only for it to go completely around. And when she leaves the movie, like, she doesn't necessarily leave the movie, but what they do with her after her big introduction and big action sequence, I guess is what you want to call it. Dude, I literally turned to my friend and I went, you have got to be effing kidding me right now. This is what she's going to be the rest of the movie? I was insulted at what they did with her character. And I was even more insulted at the end of the movie when someone else comes in the frame with her character.
We have to go, but like for a small break. But like, dude, that is one of the worst legacy sequel characters to have ever been written.
After David Gordon Green and company did something very good with Laurie Strode. That's what makes this even more shocking. We will take our Zoom-sponsored intermission, be back in about 60 to 90 seconds to talk more about The Exorcist Believer. Dom still hasn't spoken yet. We will get to his thoughts immediately after the intermission, right here on Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve. We are back after our Zoom-sponsored intermission talking The Exorcist Believer, the new and I guess from what me and Joe can gather, very disappointing sequel from David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, and Scott Teems. We've already kind of gone a little bit longer on this review. So, Dom, I'm throwing it right over to you, man. Your thoughts on The Exorcist Believer as the person who's the least fond of horror movies on this show.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I do hold The Exorcist in a high regard just because of the cultural pervasiveness of it, despite not having seen it or really being a big fan of not being a big fan of the horror genre altogether. So there were expectations going into this, which is deserved because you named this The Exorcist Believer, Never Say Never. But to be honest with you, this movie just seems to have it makes the mistake of mistaking monotony for some kind of levity or gravitas, which you should have in a horror movie. I feel like at least the type of horror movie that I would think I would enjoy, but it doesn't quite have that. Instead, it just, it becomes boring. It becomes monotonous, and it's unfortunately has no payoff whatsoever. And it really is the aimless writing here. It's very disappointing because, as Joe said, there were plenty of great ideas, opportunities, nuggets of putting a really refreshing twist on this franchise and on this kind of story. One missed opportunity that I was really looking forward to once it started to percolate a little bit more was the black side of it, introducing, hey, okay, we have again, I haven't seen the original. I'm assuming there's not even a black person in there, or is there? I don't know. Or they go to Africa? I don't know.
No.
I haven't seen it.
I will jump in later, but I know where you're going with this because I also thought this was cool.
Yeah. So all that I know of The Exorcist is that it is traditional, like Catholic or at least Christian exorcism.
Yeah.
In a more Caucasian sense. But here, the main character is not only black, and they don't own not only that, but a lot of the story, the beginning of the story, takes place in Haiti. But also they bring in a female priestess.
Yep.
I wasn't even sure what variety of religion, but just that alone, it's like, okay, that's something there. That's like, is she gonna join forces with the more traditional, like Southern-esque baptism? Is there gonna be a conflict where one works and the other one doesn't, or do they come together in the end?
And I thought,
and then there's like the Roman Catholicism. As a Catholic school survivor who grew up, I know a lot more about Christianity than I care to want to know. But going in there, it's like, okay, just seeing a lot of that, like more modern evangelical Christendom against the more traditional Catholic Vatican-based Catholicism, that alone could have been an interesting take on it.
Yep.
Assuming it hadn't been explored in the original Exorcism, but then throwing in that, that blackness, that part of the world, that part of Christendom, I thought was a great opportunity, but again, squandered here, unfortunately. And it's so disappointing to see. And then you throw in the legacy character with the McNeils. You throw in there's the dweeby dude who I guess I feel is kind of redundant. The supposed neighbor and friend of Leslie Odom Jr.'s character as well. I was like, okay, fine. That seemed a little plucky, but a little unnecessary as well. And Dowd, she looks like she was meant to be in an exorcism movie. Let's be honest. But it's like, okay, she has an interesting thing too about being a former nun. But again, it just feels overstuffed. It's just bloated. It's just bloated and boring. And ultimately it just leads to bleh and something that even not having seen the original, it feels like I've seen it already. It feels like I've seen this kind of movie already. It feels redundant despite not having seen the original. And that's just kind of the almost tragic nature of a lot of great ideas that I really wanted to explore, but just couldn't. Joe?
Dude, when you brought up that the priestess, and they bring her into the movie, and you're thinking, oh, here we go. Okay, all right, so we're gonna do something with like a different side of the world.
Is it like Haitian or is it not voodoo? But is it like
I think it's just. I mean, look, I'm just making skeptical. I'm making a skeptical thing of what it is. I think it's just how Haiti does their traditional, Catholicism.
Yeah, because they tapped into that in the very beginning.
Yeah. And it's like, it was like, oh, that's cool. So then and I was like, dude, how badass would it have been? And like maybe with this next one called Deceiver, what if they did like mega churches and like, they're like turning to that guy for like help and everything? Like I was
dude, if this trilogy becomes like a total smackdown on like modern Christendom, or at least
not a smackdown,
awesome. But like
that's at least doing something.
A critique of that. Yeah, there's a purpose behind this. Yeah. But it's nothing. It just becomes nothing.
It aggravated the hell out of me because then she comes back into the movie for, again, as an Avenger to do the exorcism. And like she does the coolest thing in the exorcism. She they're like the girls like let out this like fume, and she's like, she like says something about it. She like makes a concoction, spits it into fire. That fire explodes.
That was cool.
And it evaporates the thing that they shot out from their mouths. And I'm just like, that was sick as hell. What else is she gonna do? And that was the only thing she did.
That was the only thing she did.
I was like, what the fuck?
And the thing is, there are some like substantive ideas in this movie that are like lurking below the surface. I remember during our review of Halloween Kills, and in my written review, I said that Halloween Kills has like sort of it shows you kind of the steamrolling effect of lynch mob mentality.
Yeah.
Which I think it wasn't really a coincidence when that movie came out, like during the time that it came out too. I think it kind of played into those sort of like cultural, occurrences at that time as well. With this thing though, it seems to want to come up with like the idea that there's like a universality of all exorcisms around the world. Like, you have the thought of like that all these religions, as Chris McNeil says in her brief time in this movie, that like all these religions have some form of exorcistic practices, to the point that the idea, the concept of an exorcism is pretty much a secular ideology because it belongs to every single religion in one way, shape, or form.
Excellent idea. What a cool idea.
Really interesting idea.
Good.
And then which explains the absence of an exorcist. But you know what? Here's the thing that pisses me off about that though. Here's the thing. The concept is great. But it builds to a climax where instead of all these people, Catherine's parents, Angela's parents, Ann Dowd's character, instead of all these people coming together and feeling like this united group of different people, different walks of life, different sins, different creeds, whatever, all they fucking do is shout over each other.
Yep.
That's all they do. They shout over each other. It's a cacophony of like people shouting, demons lurking, lights flickering,
And they pay for it. Hold on. They pay for it with a very unsatisfying ending. Not just because I think it was just a very poorly written movie, but also because like the plot itself is a downer. And it's like, okay, what was the lesson here? I learned nothing.
Yeah.
I got nothing from it. I'm again, especially in a horror movie, I'm totally okay with
it. Doesn't help that they
sad endings.
It doesn't help.
Earn it. You didn't earn it.
No, you didn't. And it doesn't help that the protagonist in this movie is also probably the least interesting character on screen. Leslie Odom Jr. is not written well at all here. There was a point in time in this movie when it seems like when he's talking with Ann Dowd's character, Ann, that it looks like the movie's going to pass that proverbial baton to Ann Dowd and have the exorcism be like the cleansing of her sin that she briefly talks about in the movie. But Ann Dowd kind of disappears during the exorcism too. She kind of disappears.
That demon talks smack to her for 1 second. And she's like, I can't do this. I was like, oh, come on, man.
and that's the shaky, shitty foundation this thing is built on right now. That I assume we're going to see the 2 sequels. At least we're going to see Deceiver. But this trilogy's got such a shaky foundation at the moment because it's not like you had from the first Halloween from 2018 where David Gordon Green cemented the Strode family again. Laurie Strode looked at sort of the elder members of Haddonfield, Illinois. You don't have this foundation very strong with this movie at all. And I don't know where you're going to take the sequel because like you kind of almost have to work backwards with Deceiver now in
Dude.
trying to establish likable, laudable characters, as well as what idea or what theme are you going to are you going to weave through these three movies?
Best case scenario with something, if we're, and it sucks, but like if you're talking like structural integrity of trilogies, like best case scenario, particularly Lego sequels, but best case scenario, you get a Halloween where it does get shaky in the middle, unfortunately, but at least you have something to build off of towards the end and do something well there. Worst case scenario, you get a Star Wars sequel trilogy where you are just totally like fly by wire shooting from the hips. And
at least this will be a singular vision, though, for better or for
that is
worse.
true, and I am thankful for that. At least it doesn't go that bonkers, but I really do think the studios said, hey, you guys did so well with this other franchise, beloved franchise, do the same thing but with The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And either they were rushed, or honestly, usually we're all about studio peddling or meddling, them pushing the artists or whatever, which easily could be the case here as well. But I do think those involved, the creatives involved here, were just in over their heads.
I think
they shouldn't have been, because they shown that they can do it once, but it's like they thought that they could catch lightning in a bottle twice here, and it's just really not that. It's not that.
I think it's also because like they had a good idea with Halloween. Laurie's still alive. What is she doing today? Like, and not only that, they had sequels to Laurie that they can like kind of be like, okay, let's avoid that because they tried that already and it didn't work out. H2O, like when she was the dean of a school and everything. So it's like they at least had like some blueprints to look at and be like, let's not do that. Let's not do that with this character. But they mainly focused on Laurie and went, what if we focus on Laurie as somebody who has dealt with PTSD because of the events of the original Halloween and what that did eventually to Haddonfield as a town and what that led to, at least in the final film, with Corey. It's like, they didn't do anything with Chris McNeil. Not that I really wanted them to in the first place, but it's just like for it to like build itself and be like, we're the sequel to the original. It's like, but why? Why not just call this Exorcist Believer and just do your own Exorcist universe and like set up your own thing? I will say, I mean, like there is a possibility this could turn around. I've seen horror movies that I've despised, and then their sequels way better and they improve on it. Ouija compared to Ouija 2 is a way better movie. Annabelle 1 compared to Annabelle 2, better movie. And even like they're, later on too, they got better down the line. So it's very much possible, like, yeah, we could get a better sequel, but damn, what a foundation to start with, because right now I have the lowest amount of hopes going into that sequel.
What was the point? What is the point now? Like, I don't, not of the franchise, but of the story itself. Like, where did we start and where did we wind up?
And
I
will
just
talk
not,
about,
yeah.
I want to talk to you guys in the green room after the show. I do have an idea of like what a sequel could be, but it's like, even then, so I don't even know if it would be that good, but like how the movie ends and where it leaves one of these characters off at. I'm not even talking about the legacy characters. I'm talking about one of the new characters they introduced. Where it left one of the other characters at, I was like, okay, you could do something with this character. It would be really cool to play with that and see what happens. But we'll see what they end up doing.
I think it's especially disappointing too, because if you think back to like Halloween Ends in particular, which I said before, we are going to be 10 to 15 years ahead of the curve on saying that movie is as good as it is that David Gordon Green and company, they took a big risk, a big narrative risk that they knew they were going to get their asses chewed for by a lot of horror fans who will bitch about seeing the same slasher movie 35 times in a row. But the second a movie like H2, Halloween 2 with Rob Zombie, or David Gordon Green's Halloween Ends tries something different, they're going to be offended.
I saw somebody on Facebook say, well, at least it was better than Halloween Ends. And this movie that we're talking about, and I was like, "Oh, you're the problem."
you know how some people are so overtly racist. It's like, now I know that you're racist. Like, thank you for letting me know that. Same thing here.
Now I know you have
like,
bad taste
with like Phil. Yeah, it's like, thank you for letting me know that you just don't understand how storytelling works, or at least know how to judge it effectively.
Yeah.
But
Thank
with
you for letting me know.
Halloween Ends, it took a huge risk and it polarized a lot of people, but it was a huge risk. It paid off very well, at least in my opinion, and I think your guys' opinions as well. Green does take a pretty big risk here with like not having this movie lack a true Exorcist character, but it just backfires because there's nothing developed here.
No.
There's nothing developed here. There's nothing this thing really wants to say, and it absolutely bungles Ellen Burstyn's reappearance here. Because here's the thing to keep in mind: this is Bernstein's second Exorcist movie. She was not in Heretic.
Yep.
She was not in The Exorcist 3.
That hurts.
She was
That
not in the
hurts
beginning.
me.
She was not in Dominion. This is her first Exorcist movie since the William Friedkin 1973 movie.
You let her down. You let her down.
And I saw it, and I'm a big David Gordon Green fan. I'm a big DGG fan as a director, and even now he's starting to act a little bit. And I like what I almost had to laugh what he said, because William Friedkin just passed away not too long ago, the director of the original Exorcist. He's like, I wish William Friedkin could have seen this, The Exorcist Believer. I'm like, no, you don't, man, because Friedkin was in his 80s, and Friedkin, I don't think, even from what I've read, I don't think Friedkin was very supportive of what Universal was doing to begin with.
He said, I will haunt David Gordon Green from my grave if he makes this movie.
Yes, like, yeah, you didn't want Friedkin to watch this thing.
No.
Especially with what it came to be. I'm giving it 2 out of 4 stars. We do need to move forward here, so I will parlay from Joe to Dom for closing thoughts. It's a 2 out of 4 stars for me, and I think I'm going to be on one of the higher ends as far as this review is concerned.
Did you want me to go next, you said?
You go, Joe, and then Dom will send us home on The Exorcist.
I'll wrap it up real quick and everything, because, we have spent a long time talking on this. I hate to say it, because I don't like being so negative about movies, but this is going to be on my bottom 5 this year. I don't know where. It might be number 1. This was a huge disappointment, and just a bad movie to me. I did not like watching this. I walked out of this angry. I was quiet on the way home with my friend in the car who thought the movie was just okay, and I just had to keep going, yeah, I guess, to everything they were saying that they liked. You
were waiting for this moment to go off, dude.
I like I said, I thought performance-wise, everybody did their job great. Production value, everybody did it great. Cinematography, all that stuff. It's done good. It's the only reason why it is getting a star, at least, and not half a star from me. Because writing-wise, it drops the ball hard for me, man. I'm so surprised, coming off of the Halloween trilogy, going into this, I was like, damn, I can't believe it was written to me this bad and just boring. So yeah, it is 1 out of 4 stars for me.
I saw that Letterboxd entry. I knew you were going to come with the heat today.
The Exorcist Believer is written like how I cook, which is that the best possible ingredients can be bought and put all there in front of you. But if you just don't know how to cook it right, it just won't come out good. It just will not come good at all. But it's more disappointing because Scott Teems, Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green, they all literally just prove that they could do this effectively. So again, maybe there was an email that said like, hey, if you don't get this done in X amount of months, we're going to pull the plug 100%. Or something like that. Unless that comes to light, it's like this one's totally on that trio. This one's on them, and it's really disappointing to see because there's a certain reverence with this movie, even more so than Halloween, and I mean that's really the heart of it for me. So if anything, this wants me to actually take on the original Exorcist. This makes me want to actually see if I prove that I can watch horror movies now, which is not my forte, as we all know, but I'd be willing to give it a shot now. And
just before you go to sleep that night, just watch Scary Movie 2 afterwards. Just chase it with Scary Movie 2.
Oh my God. I have seen more scary movies, which I think is all of them, than I have the Exorcist movies, which is unfortunate.
Just chase it with Scary Movie 2. The opening scene.
1.5 for me.
Damn, I'm the highest of this one. Holy crap, man. Well, we got 2 more years till Deceiver comes out. We got 2025. We got to wait until Exorcist Deceiver comes out.
Oh boy.
So Not a great foundation this thing was built on, to say the least. But it was a foundation maybe of a friendship with some podcast luminaries that Joe was rubbing elbows with just a couple or just last week. Yeah, just last week. Double Toasted. I'm all over the place with this. I'm not really sure where to begin here, but Joe, we talked about it briefly in the beginning. You're a huge fan of the Double Toasted podcast series, podcast channel, Corey Coleman's site. And you got to do something pretty once in a lifetime over here. Talk about where you were, how this happened, how you got to appear on one of your favorite like podcast network shows.
A lot of people who are Double Toasted fans, if you're lucky enough to be in Austin at the right place, the right time, Corey will invite you on the show. If you email him ahead of time, you guys work out stuff and whatnot. But Corey's a very busy man, and so is Martin, that oftentimes those emails get buried underneath the other 20 people that want to come to Austin and hang out with them, as well as people sending them videos to react to or asking their thoughts about a movie and stuff like that, or suggestions for retro movie reviews and bad movie reviews. So it's really hard to get on this show and everything. I got lucky due to one of the recent co-hosts that they brought on. If you've been keeping up with Double Toasted, they've had like other co-hosts besides him and Martin, Corey Coleman and Martin Thomas, I should say. They had Corey Goodwin and Patrick Gertz. They had Chris Herman. They had oh my God, what's her name? Sammy
Daniela?
Gonzalez and
Oh, okay.
Daniela. I don't know why I said her name and I said Sammy Gonzalez, but yeah, like Ray is another one. Now he's a rapper and everything. Good music too. Look him up. Today it's Julian and Billy Brooks, who Billy was on Spill for like the longest time, but then took a break and then has been coming back now on Double Toasted. He's only on once a week, and Julian Green, who is only involved really with the movie reviews because he's a critic himself as well. I found him at the convention I was at while I was away last week. Last week I went to a convention for it's called the ICMA. It's the International City Managers Association, and annually they host this convention where they pull managers from cities all over the world to come to this center, and they take workshops together and share things that they've done throughout the year, or they have vendors there to showcase like, hey, here's our new software that can help you with this, or here's a trash collecting company that builds trash bins underground so that way rats don't emerge. They built it under cement and it lifts up and it carries over the garden. It's a really cool convention in my field. It's really, it's awesome that it's all funded by private corporations that just want to sell to government, like Amazon and all this stuff. They're big sponsors of the event. That's why they're able to afford cool convention centers in Austin and everything. My school sent me out there. I got to go out there for free under my school. It comes with my tuition, so I'm like, you damn right, I'm gonna use that thing. And while I was walking around the convention hall, I saw Julian Green, and it turns out I never knew this about him. But he basically does AV equipment, stuff for conventions and concerts and stuff like that. And he was handling the stuff at this convention center.
It's a hell of a gig.
It is, yeah. And he gets to travel a lot. He was telling me all this. Actually, funny enough, when I was bumping into him, he was watching Loki season 2 because they were getting ready for the review. So he was catching up on that while at work, because he told me, he's like, all I had to do was set up 2 cameras today, and I just been kind of walking around this convention hall watching Loki season 2, getting ready for the review. But I bumped into him. I told him I'm a big fan of Double Toasted. I told him I love all your stuff that you've been doing recently on the show and everything. And he told me, he's like, do you want to come on the show tonight? We're reviewing Saw X. And I went, yeah. And so
what a hero. Julian, God damn.
I was like, are you
What a
sure?
ticket,
I'm like,
man.
because at the time, Corey was in New York City. He just got done doing a stand-up show there. He's starting to do stand-up now on the side when he's not doing the Double Toasted podcast with another co-host called Oz Green, who lives out in New York City. And he's starting to do a stand-up out there. I was like, are you sure? I know Corey's in New York. And then Julian told me, he's like, well, he's coming back later today. And he's like, dude, he's always welcome to Toasties. That's what the fan base is called. Toasties coming to the house and just hanging out in the show and everything, as long as you respect the fact that we're on air. Don't talk over us, don't try to butt in, know when to come in when we talk to you, or when there's that opening and it's okay, it's perfect for you to jump in and whatnot. I'm like, dude, of course. They have a thing called the Fuck Up Club, and it's a club of get people who have been on the show and just try to like be a part of the show when they're not supposed to be.
I would have put tape over my mouth. That's how scared I would have been.
Okay, I would have sat there like this.
Would have been too scared of it.
I watched enough Double Toasted in my days to know, like, all right, just shut the fuck up, and you'll know when to go in perfectly. And like, I was on the show, and they brought me on the mic, as you can see on the photo that I've been showing on
Great
screen.
photo.
They brought me on mic. They interviewed me for a little bit. If you want to go see it, you're gonna have to go on their Twitch channel, and it's just find their Saw X review. I come in about an hour into the show.
When I cut this up into YouTube clips, I will link this in the description below.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I got to I came in, I just did like a little thing. We joked around about like my career and everything. Everything that was said on the show, by the way, was a joke. Like, it was all jokes. We made fun of the fact that I'm working in government, and government sometimes could be greedy and take money from people. It was all jokes, I swear to God. I know I'm Italian.
It'll come out what you did.
You'll get that reference once you watch the clip. Even though I'm Italian, I'm from Chicago and everything. Trust me, I want to serve the people as best as possible. Watch this be played like 20 years down the line and bite me in the ass.
Thoughts and opinions of Joe Viso do not reflect the state of Illinois.
They're gonna ask Dom and Steve. You guys didn't know?
Paid for by Take It Back Pack.
So they brought me on and everything, and then throughout the rest of the show, I make like slight comments here or there. But it's when I have like a perfect opening too. There's other like highlights you can see, like in the Saw X review. There's just a moment where Corey's dog, who's like a little chihuahua, just stopped in the middle of the floor and looked at me like this and just stared at me. And like just in the middle of the review, Corey stopped and he's like, I don't know why, but like Pixie was looking at Joe like she was about to put his ass in a trap, like in Saw or some shit. And then like we joked around about that. There's like a bunch of other stuff too. But man, Corey, Julian, Martin, whoever's watching this, if you guys like see the tag and you're like, oh shit, it's that kid that was on our show. Thank you guys for inviting me over to the show. It was a blast. I had so much fun. It was cool to witness that live. You guys were very welcoming, and even after the show, just the little small talk we had, it was really cool to like get to know you guys and everything. I would love to come back out to Austin and be part of the show again, but if you definitely come out to the Midwest once more, and Chicago is the place you go, you damn right I'm going to be there at another live show. I didn't mean for that to rhyme at all, like the very little it did. But yeah, thank you, Double Toasted. Big heart to you guys. That shit was fun as hell.
That was awesome, man. When you sent us that photo and stuff, I'm like, I swear to God, and I don't ask this much. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge, but I'm like, is this real?
Dude, like, I told people, I texted.
There's no build-up or nothing. You just sent us a screenshot of it.
Yeah. Like,
it was like, this is the best damn Photoshop I've seen in my life. Joe, it's getting a little desperate, but no, it was real. It was effing real. And I almost screamed at work when I saw that.
I was watching it at work, and I'm like, and I swear I'm in like my studio, so I got the door closed and everything, but I'm watching this and I'm like, holy shit, he's talking to Corey.
It's surreal. It's surreal. It's like
it
I'm the newest one of the three of us, and I've been watching them since like 2016. So like, yeah. Crazy, dude.
It was
crazy.
It was a very crazy time. Like it just it was surreal too. Like it was just like, holy shit, I actually got to be on the show. Because like seeing them live in Chicago, I've gone to both of their Chicago shows, and I talked to them for like a little bit, but it's like they meet so many people that night, they're not gonna remember me and everything. But to actually make like an impression with them and get to know them, that like if I were to go out there again, will they remember me? I hope so. If not, they'll probably vaguely remember me because of how many fans they've interacted with over the years. I mean, for God's sakes, 2 nights later, they brought on another fan, and on their Sunday show, another guy came on. It was like, I started like a chain reaction. People were like, oh shit, I can go on the show again.
The chat was very kind to you, too.
They were, yeah.
The chat was super kind to you. Like, they've got it really seems like they've got a solid group of fans.
They do, yeah.
Like a solid group
of good
entertaining, respectful, mostly mature, but fun having, like, people with brains in their head actually like these guys.
Honestly, Double Toasted for like, because, we do our own movie review podcast. Double Toasted taught me, it's like, hey, don't tread the same ground over and over again. Try to say something in your reviews, and that's what what I try to aim for in our reviews. So honestly, very inspiring crew, and honestly, the community on YouTube. I mean, YouTube was a little bit of a downgrade, of course, as always, but they've been real nice because I don't know if you saw the comments, Joe. There aren't. I don't know. I don't think there are any comments on there about you, except for one. Did you see my comment
on YouTube?
Yes, I posted a comment on the YouTube thing, on the Saw X review, and I put. Well, I don't know if you can see it right now, but okay, I'll just say it. I put. Okay, but anyone else think the NIU salesman was cute? Like, I put that on there, and it got 9 upvotes. It got 9 thumbs up. 9 thumbs up, dude.
Hey, yo, those 9 people hit me up. I'm still single, unlike these 2.
You'll probably have to scroll down a bit, but it's there. It's there, man.
That's funny. I didn't watch it on YouTube. But I did see it on Twitch.
Yeah. But anyways, man, it was a great time. I hope to be going on there again at some point. I mean, I doubt it. It felt like it was like, man, this is not going to be an often thing. It'll probably happen again. I don't know when the next time I'll go out to Austin. It is like one of my favorite cities to go to in the United States. But it's like, man, I've been there 4 times in a row already. I kind of need a break from Austin.
Every time you appear, you should be in a new level of government. So like by the sixth time you're on the show, you should be like the mayor of Evanston or some shit. Like
my final appearance, I'm running for president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
That was awesome to see, though. Check it out. I'll have the video posted when I cut this up for YouTube, YouTube clips and stuff like that. I'll have the video linked in the bottom of the description and stuff, the cool. Twitch video, and I'll timestamp it as well. Highly recommended, dude. Very jealous of you, but really cool. They say don't meet your heroes, but it seems like your heroes are pretty sweet to you.
Dude, I was so afraid. Like, actually, on the Uber ride there, I was like, oh shit, man! What if like they're not nice?
Yeah, like, don't meet your heroes is the saying. Yeah. Don't meet your heroes.
Yeah, that's what they say. So like, you got lucky, and you seemed like you had a great time, man. So, kudos to you. We're calling an audible for next week's show instead of Taylor Swift the Eras Tour. We're gonna review Totally Killer, which is now on Amazon Prime. Looking forward to it. We just kind of made that executive decision, I think, this morning to actually review that one instead. Because I've seen it. I don't know. You guys haven't seen it yet. I think there's a lot to talk about with this movie. Catherine and I thoroughly enjoyed it the other day when we watched it. There's a lot of cool things in this movie. It's definitely a Blumhouse horror comedy production. It's that to its very core, but there is it's got a lot going for it. I think it's going to lead to some good discussion. I wouldn't have called such a major audible this late into the game if I didn't think it would lead to some good discussion. So that's next week on the show, and then whatever news happens to fall across our desks over here. Joe couldn't talk about the podcast appearance last week, and I was not letting him get out of it this week. So that is why we devoted the back half of this show to him talking about Double Toasted.
I was sad I missed the creator review because I actually had a lot to say about that movie.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
We both said that, I think, even during the review. We both said that you would be the one to kind of you'd be kind of the 10-pole.
You got 5 minutes. Go.
It's 2.5 out of 4 stars for me. I think visually it's one of the best looking sci-fi films I've seen in a long time. I love the war imagery of it. I like how chaotic it gets at times too. Like there's literally robots that are designed to be literally a bomb, and they just kill themselves like a bomb in Super Mario.
That was so stupid though.
It was so stupid, but I thought
visually
it was awesome.
It's pleasing, but it's so dumb.
I just thought, other than the visuals, the world building, and just like the action sequences, there was really nothing else. The characters were kind of flat, and I didn't feel for anything for them. And the story really didn't take a stance on AI, other than I think it was like it was using AI as like, hey, look, we shouldn't treat others this way and everything. But it was like, I think with the recent talks of AI, we were kind of expecting something else. And I did watch the movie not with my own interpretation. I was like, okay, let me see what Gareth Edwards does here. I'm watching what Gareth Edwards made. But by the end of the movie, I even just sat there and was like, I mean, even just as a movie that's like, oh man, we should treat everybody fairly, no matter who they are, AI or not. I just was like, man, I mean, it was just, I've seen that kind of be done so many times. It was cool to get an original sci-fi film in terms of it, not being based on a property or anything. That's what I mean by original. But yeah, man, it sucks that like, John David Washington, like he was kind of underutilized, I think. There's a few moments where he kind of works some of that charm he has from his dad. But for the most part, and I thought the humor in that movie was just in odd places, man. Like there's a scene where a grenade is thrown and a dog picks it up and it tosses it back at the robots that threw it and blows them up. There's another one where a person is just like, hey guys, I have ice cream. Oh shit. And then they blow up and I'm just like, all right. I'm like, that's just kind of weird after like coming off a scene where I saw like robots get torn apart and human beings are literally nuked alive. I thought like if it would have played it more serious and developed maybe John David Washington and Gemma Chan's characters some more, this actually could have been like a good sci-fi film. Not a great one, but a good one. Because by the end of the movie, when they have like their love reconnection and everything, I felt nothing. I was just like,
Yeah.
I had like a whole different idea they should have done with her character and everything. I don't want to ruin it for people, but I mean, I kind of did with that ending part that I just spoiled, but I only got 2 minutes. I'm not going to say shit. But yeah, 2.5 out of 4 stars for me.
Solid review. You would have been the highest of both of us. I think we both gave it 2. We both gave it 2. We both gave it 2 stars. It did loan itself to good conversation.
The majority of that star power goes to the visuals. 100%. I'm with you on that.
And for the budget
Easily.
it had, that is impressive.
That's what we started with. That was our opening statement on it, too. Really great show, gentlemen. As always, we're back next week to talk Totally Killer, which is now streaming on Amazon Prime. That will be our leadoff next Wednesday, same time, same place. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.